Hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 80. This is the Independent Musician's Guide to Production and Promotion. My video was on with volume, so sorry, that was throwing me off. Today, we're talking all about recent Native Instruments updates, mainly guitar rig and some MIDI keyboards that have some really cool polyphonic aftertouch additions. We'll also talk about free and easy ways to make Spotify canvases from just a photo. And finally, in the round robin, we'll discuss a few ways to add realism to VSTs. This show is brought to you by our patrons, and each week we go live with them before it heads to podcast platforms on Saturday. Many thanks to everyone joining us in the chat. If you want to help spread the word, retweet, post it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it all helps. You can head to patreon.com/audionautic to join us and share your opinions on the stream, as well as additional bonus content and hangouts. My name is Sunwarper, and with me today is Curtis. What's up, my friend?
I'm hoping you can hear me without glitches or anything noisy.
It seems like it. I think we're good. I think we can celebrate. Yeah. I got thrown off right at the start because I was hearing those seagulls in Trans-Pacific, our intro song. And I was like, are there seagulls outside? I already told you the whole drama with the crows outside. So it's like, I don't need seagulls now. but it was the song. It was the
you
song.
ever see that? It's like the film The Birds. They're just following you around.
That's I know. It was creepy. There was about 15 crows, but yeah, I don't know. There was a crow that looked sick in the front yard, and I don't know if all these crows were like coming to mourn or if they were coming to, just do feast. The whole nature thing. Yeah, feast. What's it called? Feast, exactly. So I'm not sure if anybody knows crow MO. Let us know in the chat. We've got some patrons in the chat. David is here. Welcome, David. He says, hey, everyone. How are you? What's going on this week? Have you been working on any music? Let us know. We've also got Abby in the chat, but they say they're in a meeting, so I'm not sure if they're I think they might be muted. So if you're able to watch, awesome, but just being here is always more than enough. We appreciate it. But yeah, let us know if you can, what you've been up to this week. Any music? I'm curious if you've been working with that AI for the videos again. We were talking about that last week. That was really cool. I want to check that one out. Maybe post paternity leave. But Curtis, what have you been up to?
It's been a lot of mixing. It's been a lot of mixing, mainly lots of mixing. I really went down the rabbit hole of signal chains. I really went down basically I have this track which I didn't like. I made this whole thing and I hated it. And I was like, screw this. I'm going to do something completely different. So I just started all again. And I took it from a perspective of sound design as opposed to like musical. So they're mainly drones and instruments, and I've been affecting them and changing them and manipulating them and using LFOs to do all this weird stuff. So now it's basically alive. And I love that. It's great.
It's alive. It's gained sentience. Can it draw hands?
Well, I'm hoping so. I'll see down the line. I'm working on it.
That's what is that test? What is Turing test? That's the new
Turing test. Yeah,
that's the new one.
Can it draw hands?
Draw hands?
Yeah. But it's been really interesting because we spent a lot of time here talking about live performance and musical performance and stuff like that for good reason. We are a music production channel, and that's what we do. This is great, right? But it's been a long time since I've been looking at it from a sound design perspective, from a clinical, more kind of less musical and more kind of how can I distort frequencies and stuff like that, and not just distort, but obviously manipulate. How can I manipulate frequencies and turn them into something else? And so coming from that, like, it's just a really nice way to work. It's very nice. It's a nice, refreshing way to work, shall we say? So that's me.
Yeah.
How about you, brother?
Just getting ready for that baby, and he's full term, 39 weeks today. It's always Wednesdays, so anytime now, I'll be gone and not answering your texts. Well, I'll still try to answer, but we'll see. I don't know about that. We're getting ready. We got everything built. Everything's all ready. The bags are packed. Like we're good to go. And then I got some really good news this morning that I thought was going to take a lot longer to hear back from, but I've got accepted into the YouTube partner program on my Sunwarper channel. Oh, nice. Yeah, hold on. Wait.
Yay! There we go.
Celebrate.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that was really good because it was crazy because when I started applying, the first thing was, oh, you have to get approved for Google AdSense. This can take 1 to 2 weeks. And within like an hour, that thing went accepted. And then the next thing was, oh, YouTube has to approve your channel. They have to review your channel, make sure everything's like all, proper and up to their code of conduct or whatever you want to call it. And they were like, this usually takes a month. So I was like, that's great, because then in a month I won't even know what's going on, like with the baby and all that. I'll be out of the loop. And then I woke up today and it was 1 day later and it's like, you're in. So okay, cool. So that was really good. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And thank you, David. He says, awesome, Sunwarper. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a lot of work, but it's fun. I actually found pairing back to a video every other week has actually been better than trying to do a video every week, not just for mental health, but also just in actual performance of views. I think in the long term, obviously quality is better than quantity, but at the start, you want to learn how to do all these things on video. So the more you can make, because you're going to make mistakes in all of them. They're like, I was so awkward in the first ones and stuff, like figuring out camera, keyframes, camera placement. So doing the quantity makes sense. But then once you start getting the hang of it, I think the quality is much more important.
I think that's fair. And I mean, I just want to take a second, just again, to offer congratulations. Like,
well,
for those watching either live back or listening on Spotify or Apple Music, this man grafts a hell of a lot, and he's coming in every Monday and he's talking about his videos and he's grafting and he's pushing himself to the bone, and he is working on stuff and scripting and editing and keyframing and everything. And you got it. So
yeah,
congratulations to you, bro. That's what you need.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long road, but it's only halfway there because I'm only in the first tier, so I still got to get the second tier. But it means, I'm not trying to diminish it. It means a lot. It's awesome. But yeah, it's onwards and upwards now.
Onwards and upwards, living on a prayer, as Bon Jovi would say, if you're halfway there.
Yeah.
So that was very weak, but I had to get
I liked it. I liked it. We're halfway there. So yeah, all right.
Exactly. So that's cool. Let us know in the chat. David, Abby, what you been up to? Have you been musical? Have you been up and down? David, how is that Boss Looper working out for you? I really want to know where you're at with that.
The RC 505?
I think he got the 600. Please, David, correct us if I'm wrong. I have to check.
I've been looking at that. I've been watching this YouTuber, Cruel Buddhist. I sent you. He was doing stuff with the Ultra Nova, but he uses the SP and stuff. But he has I think it's the RC 505, and it's so cool. Like the live looping is just awesome. Yeah. Oh, he got the RC 500. David said. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure the difference in that. If Curtis, do you mind Googling it, actually, seeing what the RC 500 looks like?
The 505 is the desktop one with it has where you do it with your hands, right? Whereas the 500, and it's the upgrade to the 300, which is now discontinued. It's you work with your feet. So it's
nice. Okay.
And as
it hasn't popped up on the. Here it is. Okay, he says it's smaller, but has the drums too. Only 2 channel. That's cool. Yeah. I think I'm going for the Digitact for my next thing, but the RC 505. I think it's a 505. That bigger, the one you said with the hands. That's what that guy. I think I'm going with the Digitact, but man, it's tough. They both look very interesting.
They are. Yeah. I had the RC 300 back in Vietnam. I sold it before I moved over here, and I'm considering going and getting. I think the 600 still exists, but also I think over here it's been discontinued. I thought about the 505, but it's all hands, right? Yeah. I'm thinking, I
think there's a foot switch. I think you can get. I think you can get a. Well, yeah. I'm just saying you have the option then to do foot or hands. AI would have no idea what to do with that.
I think it's very fair. I would like to, because if I want a live loop with my hands, I've got Ableton, right? So I'm quite happy with that. It's good. It works for me. This hybrid system I've got works, but I would like to be able to loop guitar more expressively, and I think for that you need a foot. So for me, it would be the 600. But then I want them both. I want them all. Again, same as you. I wouldn't mind the Digitact.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for. I was looking at the rhythm, the analog rhythm, but I was like, I think, well, it's cheaper, but I think the Digitact is more what I want with the SP, because I think together those two will be like a powerhouse or even circuit. And I know like Atlas Castle uses the circuit and the Digitact to great effect. So yeah, I was like, I think that's a good start point for Electron. And I love all the per step modulation you can do and stuff. Like you can do all these functions and triggers. It's just crazy. I was watching some videos yesterday and I was like, this is not what I need right now, but I can't stop. I can't turn away.
I know what you mean. It's like occasionally, like I look at my bank balance and I go, I can't get more gear. I can't do it. I can't justify it. And then something just switches in my brain and I'm like, it's been a minute. I deserve more gear. I've been good. I've not bought it.
That's the little Angel Curtis and the Devil Curtis, like just on your like those old movies. Just boop, boop.
It's amazing how quickly. So okay, so I've got, if you can see here, I've got a launch control XL, right? But then I got myself a second one here, right? Now I bought the first one and I knew that I was going to get a second. I knew it. I just knew it. Like it was always going to be a case of having two. And I put it off for a long, long time for good financial reasons. I didn't want to spend the money, and I had rent to pay, all that stuff. And then it got to June, or I think it was June, May or June, one of the two. And just that devil on the shoulder, if you will, he just popped up and went, "Hi."
Oh man, yeah.
And it's
gotcha.
He did, and I think it's an interesting one. Maybe it's something that we should discuss in Around Robin at some point. But obviously we have an affiliation with Gear. Eon Lake, who sadly can't join us today. He's always buying gear and he's always trying out something new, right?
Yeah.
And there is a balance. It's not a case of just buying the gear and being a better person for it, or being a better musician or producer, whatever you want to call yourself for it. But there is at the same time a notion of putting money behind your craft and going, I'm going to make an investment in this.
Oh, definitely. It's more just put the money behind your craft when you're able to, instead of like, well, do I want to eat or do I want to put money behind my craft? Like you can't be behind your craft if you don't exist from not eating, So that's what I mean. Really quickly, David says loopers are essential. And I'm curious, David, because I know you have that full-on DAW-less setup. Is the purpose of the looper in this setup, I'm assuming it's for that setup, to expand it in the sense that you can record something into it and then it frees up that piece of gear for more? I'm curious. Let us know, because that's a very cool way to do it. But if it's not that way, what is the purpose of it in your setup? I'm curious either way to hear all of that.
It's really interesting to watch David ASF Stripe do his workflow on where he posts these videos for hardware jams, and it's really interesting to watch kind of how it works, because they say he's completely DAW-less, and that's fully respectful. It's awesome, and it's just a really interesting way of seeing how gear talks to each other, and that it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. He put something, I can see it on my phone, but it's not up on StreamYard yet, so I'll share. There it is. Okay, yeah. He says, expand it and to record with that loop feel. Yeah, definitely. That's a great way to do it. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I was very curious. I'm really into this idea of the live looping, almost like the way, kind of like the second part of what you said, David, is just build everything rather than with sequences and stuff, you just loop it. And so it's like gets that real raw, organic sound to it. I mean, I don't think I'd always want to do that, but that idea at the moment is just like really enticing to me. And I don't know why, but that's where I'm at.
I get it. I'd be really interested to see. I'd really interested to see when you start bringing in hybrid systems like that. Like, I love the idea of ASF Stripe's hardware, completely hardware setup, no computers or nothing. It seems so pure. It seems so.
He says seems to make me more melodic. So just on the topic of seems so pure and stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's what I love, is that all these different workflows kind of trigger or tickle different aspects of my like creative side. Like if I'm working, like I need to upgrade to Reason 12, because I realize when I work in Logic, I could craft big orchestral things. But when it comes to making structured synthwave or something, the way that DAW looks just doesn't work for me. I'm used to the Reason where it's like all these different colors and blocks, and it just makes more sense. And then when I'm DAW-less, I find I can do more beat stuff and things like that. So I get what you mean. It's just like all these different methods just open up different workflows or different ways of doing things.
Completely. And I mean, I go back to what I was saying about this sound design track I've been building over the last week. Like, it's fully production. I've been sitting there with a laptop, just in the headphones, no interfaces, no nothing. And you're never going to recreate it live unless you kind of just play it through the tracks, right? But it's, instead of me sitting there with a keyboard or a guitar, I'm sitting there manipulating LFOs with a computer with a mouse. I'm like proper bedroom producer, kind of beat maker kind of stuff. And it's just, like you say, it tickles a different side of the brain.
Yeah.
I keep saying this, I've got a load of boxes over there, which I should hook up to some form of doorless setup. I don't think I will when I've got the time, but you've got to try these different workflows. You've got to try these different ways of looking at it.
I just realized there's a cat right behind you. I thought that was your hair for some reason. I was like, whoa, that's not his hair. That doesn't even make sense. Let me hold on. Let's zoom in there for a second.
Yeah,
there we go. Yeah.
I've been at work all day, so and she's hungry. That's the only reason she's being affectionate and saying close. She's hungry.
Yeah.
Well,
Joey, I know we've got a bit of a truncated show, so yeah, the synchronicity, I guess, yin and yang. But we should probably get into the news because there's some really interesting news.
Very much so. We'll start with what's going on with Native Instruments because it's kind of it's the main gig for the day. We've had a few releases.
The little banner you've got.
Thank you. New Native Instruments. Yeah, so we've got a set of new MIDI controllers coming out with the Control S Series MKIII MIDI control keyboards, which are fancy as hell. And also we have...
And their price reflects that.
Yeah. Let's face it. The price reflects that. And so also we're having a look at guitaring and stuff like that. Let's start with the MIDI keyboards. You have got a lovely kind of selection that you've got here. Do you want to take us through it, Sunwarper?
Yeah, do you mind just sharing the link so we can get a nice picture? They're gorgeous. And I don't say that about MIDI controllers ever, but I was like, wow, those are actually gorgeous.
They really are. Hang on, let me share this here so you can see it come through. Yeah. So add this to the stage. These guys.
Yeah. Let me just zoom in there for a second. Yeah, I mean, look at those. So let me, there we go. I mean, that's pretty nice. I like that. But just to start, the 49 key, the first one starts at, I believe, $750. Not $7.50, $750 or $749. You save a buck, I guess. There's a 49, a 61, and an 88 key. Let's see. So it says the entire line has been updated to feature, I think it's pronounced FATAR, FATAR. You can correct me if anybody knows. Keyboards with polyphonic aftertouch, which is huge. This lets you take performances further, letting you control cutoff, pitch, vibrato, and more for each individual note without reaching for encoders, dials, anything like that. Full color glass display, metal touch pitch and modulation wheels with central illumination, hardware software integration with direct connection to contact, integration with all major DAWs, so you can control transport and mixing. You can control transport and mixing commands directly from the keyboard, record, stop, rewind, mix, edit, and see project channels on the display. That's pretty cool. Precision tweaking for all sounds. There's pre-map to instruments, and then I think you can map it with MIDI. Redesigned light guide pinpoints notes with a light above each key. That's awesome. And then USB MIDI and bus-powered USB-C connectivity, plus inputs for 4 pedals, 1 sustain, 1 expression, and 2 assignable pedals.
See, as you got, my first question to you was going to be why, in the world of MIDI controllers where you've got anything under the sun, why would you go out and spend at least $750 on one? But then you started listing the things that it's got.
I was also going to say, I mean, a big thing, and I think there's other keyboards that have it, but polyphonic aftertouch is huge. And to just get clarification fully, I actually, hold on, let me find it. I actually just asked ChatGPT to define polyphonic aftertouch. So if you're not familiar with polyphonic aftertouch, that description that I read off actually gave a pretty good quick summary where you can control expressions of individual notes. But here's ChatGPT. Let's see. Polyphonic aftertouch, also known as polyphonic pressure, is a feature found on some musical keyboards synthesizers. It allows for individual control over the pressure or force applied to each key of the keyboard, even after a key has been pressed. This means that you can vary the level of modulation, pitch, bend, or other parameters independently for each note you're playing simultaneously. So in a chord, you could have an LFO on the filter, let's say, and each note would be affected differently by how much pressure you're putting on each note. That's me. That's not ChatGPT. To continue from ChatGPT, though, in contrast, traditional aftertouch, also known as monophonic aftertouch, applies a single pressure value to all keys pressed on the keyboard. Polyphonic aftertouch provides more expressive possibilities in music performance as it enables you to apply nuanced effects to individual notes with chords or melodies, like we talked about already. It's a feature often appreciated by skilled keyboardists and synthesizer enthusiasts for its versatility in creating dynamic and expressive sounds. So a lot there, but basically individual hits go burr differently. That's my TLDR.
Individual hits go burr differently. There you go. There's that. There's the trophy.
Depending what you route the aftertouch to. Yeah,
I love that completely. I get it. It sounds awesome. Sounds great. $750. Hang on. What we got? $750 for the 49.
Let me go back to the screen. Hold on. There you go.
Yeah, $849 for the 61, and then $1,300 for the 88.
And I do think, just to give a quick caveat, I believe they also introduced some updates to the lower end MIDI controllers that they do. I think this is more the higher end, but this just caught my eye. It's really cool. Polyphonic aftertouch, the look of them. I mean, I think this is much more of a like professional musician kind of thing, or if you have the expendable cash. I mean, none of those features that they've added are necessary, but I like being able to see things on the screen there, controlling everything from a MIDI controller, basically make it like the brain of your DAW separate from the DAW. It's just a cool way to do it.
For sure. I think if you've got, I mean, I have native access, and I've got contacts and complete control, and I've got certain VSTs in there. Their VSTs are very high quality, expensive, but very high quality. And I've used them both in stuff for Curtis and for my commissions and for all professional stuff as well. If you are starting out, if you are kind of getting into it, it's a great little package to get into. It is a big kind of investment at the beginning, but you do have a swathe of different sounds available to you. And then if you get this, which is dedicated for it, your workflow becomes a lot smoother. The one thing I've learned, especially like coming through Ableton, so the launch control, the launch pad are directly built for Ableton, plug in and play, and it's just there. It works. It makes everything so much easier. If you're getting into music production, or you want to get into making commissioned work for TV or film or for video games or something, and you get that, it makes sense to have a MIDI controller that is built for that purposes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And just really quick, while you're talking about that, I did get an email about a lower Control S Series MKIII. I'm going to look how much that one costs for native instruments. Control S Series. Or is that the one? I think that's a different one that we're talking about, isn't it? Oh, no, that is the one. Never mind. I'm sorry. I thought they had updated another one, but I believe not then. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Sorry to get everybody hyped. But in the chat, David says that is it pronounced Fatar? I think so. I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but that keyboard feels really nice. What do you have it on, David? What synth, or do you have a MIDI controller with it? And I'm curious if anybody in the chat, or if you're watching back, are you looking to get a MIDI controller, and is something more higher end like this of interest to you, or do you think just a simple MIDI controller like a Mini Lab or something like that is all you need? And there's nothing wrong with that. I have a Mini Lab, and I don't even use it much. I use my Prophet as a MIDI controller, not synced with anything. I don't have any MIDI CCs. I just need the MIDI, and then I do everything on the DAW. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a place for it. I don't know if it's for me right now. I just thought it was really cool, and I could see definitely if you're working in the DAW a lot, this would be a great controller. And if you're sending stuff to synths, you can do it all right there. And David continues that he's got it on the Grandmother and the Pro 3. That's awesome. Yeah.
Okay, cool. There you go. I think a MIDI keyboard is a staple these days, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've got a Nectar Impact 49, which back when I got it, it was kind of like the mid-range one. Again, one of those where it's one of those pieces of gear that I do feel it's important not to skimp on. It's one of those.
Yeah.
You can get cheap ass synthesizers. You can get you know, you can get MIDI controllers and stuff like that. But when it comes to the keyboard, as it's such a central piece of the studio, you know, it makes sense to make that investment. That's the way I see it.
A slight counterpoint. I mean, for the longest time, I think I used one of those very cheap M Audio ones, like the 25 key. This is a long time ago too, like maybe 2013, 2015. And I mean, worked great. If you just need something for $100 just to get started, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a lower end keyboard. I have the Mini Lab, like I said, when I needed. I don't think that was all that much, but it has a lot there with the MIDI CCs that you can control. It even's got the drum pads on it. But I get what you're saying, and you're right. But I also think if it comes down to you don't have much budget, but you need a MIDI keyboard, just get one of the lower end ones, and you can do everything still in the DAW. You can change velocities. Like on Logic, you can just set up random velocity or a velocity set, like go between 50 and 75 or something. And there's a lot you can do, and then you can automate in the DAW. So yeah, I think I don't want to say I think it's essential. It is essential, but I think it's an area you can be flexible, let's say.
That's fair. I think that's a fair analysis. I'll give you that one. Yeah, totally. So that is the native instruments itself. What about Guitar Rig? Because that caught your eye specifically, didn't it?
Well, I would think it would catch your eye too, being a guitarist, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're so in the Iridium camp that you can't budge whatsoever. They announced Guitar Rig 7, and it adds some pretty cool stuff. Do you want to just share their website?
Yeah, I'll share their website and bring it up so you can see.
Yeah, so while you're doing that, so they've added 4 new amps, 5 new pedals or effects, and some of them are powered by what they call machine learning, intelligent circuit learning, or what they call ICM, which I was like, you were so close to IDM. You know, so close. And my big thing with these intelligent circuit learnings is I'm wondering, we had covered an effect, an amp sim before that was adding AI to give some of this. And I think this is something kind of similar and a little bit competitive with it, where it will give it a little more natural sound and changing sounds, you know, like analog behavior, if you want to call it. My question is it going to help that fizzy fake distortion? Because that's always been the issue I've had with not just Guitar Rig, any amp sim, other than maybe the SP404's amp sim. Have to say it because it sounds so good. But anytime I try to add distortion to a guitar on there, there's just this fizz. And I actually, to counteract that a little bit, I used to use impulse responses, which we'll talk about in the round robin. But this Guitar Rig has added some new impulse responses. They call it a new cabinet impulse response loader. And so impulse responses, if you're not familiar, are convolution reverbs. And it simulates or emulates a room. You can record a room and it will create a sound like you're in that room. So you could add it at the bottom, or you can even emulate, like record the amp, like how it responds and stuff. And then you could just have that as a cabinet in a reverb. So like Space Designer on Logic would have a cabinet IR, and it would make it sound, if you send an amp with no cabinet from Guitar Rig into that would make it sound like it's going through the cabinet and gives it more realism and stuff like that. And so, yeah, so Curtis is running through all these things. This is their cabinet impulse response loader. Pretty cool that they've added that. Has it caught your eye at all?
It has, yeah. I think if I didn't have, I have to Strymon an Iridium, and there's nothing wrong. It's not a hardware versus software kind of thing. Just when it comes to the guitar aspect of things, because I have it on my looper, we're going to be discussing. We discussed it in the round robin about using Guitar Rig with synthesizers, but I think I don't know, maybe it's just the way I see it, but if because I've got the Strymon Iridium and I've got my pedal board underneath the desk, that's my tone and that's kind of what I go for, and that's what I like, and I'm happy with that, you know. Yeah. The Guitar Rig Pro for €100, maybe I would. I got Guitar Rig 5. I just couldn't justify it because I wouldn't use it enough to justify spending €100 on it. But it's not to say it's not a cool piece of kit. It's something that would go on. I think if it's something. Thing about these things, they're very. Yeah. The thing about these things
is the JCM 800 or something. No, it's not enough knobs. Wonder what that's emulating.
Knobs. I'll have to see. But Oh, there's a dude there.
With a telly.
With a telly, and also what looks like a Native Instruments MIDI controller on the back.
And what is that? A TR-808 or a 808? Behringer
TR-808.
one or something?
You got the
micro cord or
microcord.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's the thing about these things, is that they're very CPU heavy. And you know me, I tend to run on a laptop. I like the portability of that kind of thing.
Yep.
Like maybe one of these days when I've got a home studio, forever home, maybe I'll have a super duper Mac with an M4 chip, and then that'll be all I need. But that's the reason I've got an amp sim as hardware outside the DAW, is because it just takes so much power.
Yeah.
That's the thing for me.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, it was more just seeing the things they're adding that caught my eye. They've added a lot of lo-fi effects, so they're definitely catering to that with those lo-fi jazzy guitar sounds and stuff. They've got a new looper. There's the ICM, intelligent circuit modeling. Let's see. Amp sims don't just sound like the real deal, they feel like it. Yeah, so it's probably adding variation and things like that. They've added some new effects, or new amps, I'm sorry. They've added new effects as well. Reverb delight. Love that. Yeah. And then the AC box, which is a Vox. What else? They added one more, I believe.
Bass Rage.
Yeah, Bass Rage. That must be some kind of... I'm wondering if that has to do with a bass amp that Rage Against the Machine used. Maybe, seems like they're going with that, like an Ampeg or something is what it kind of looks like. But yeah, lo-fi fix. There's all the things they've added. Yeah. I thought it was interesting that they made a whole segment in their new promotion of Guitar Rig 7 for lo-fi effects. Yeah,
they know their market. They know their market. Hey, I like the use of K. I like the use of subbing out the C.
Oh, I knew that would catch your eye. Yeah, now you're gonna upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. They got me. But again, these people who use this kind of thing again tend to be beat makers. Again, lo-fi, all that stuff. That's very fashionable. It's very good. Why not cater to the market that it is in its own right? You know, they are very high quality, which also means very expensive and very CPU heavy. But they are great. As far as there's Amplitude as well. I don't know if you've ever used that. That's free and that's pretty. It's pretty.
I used Logic's stock amp emulator and it wasn't terrible. Waves had us one that was okay. Guitar Rig, I think I'm on 5 or 6. I can't remember. It might be 6. I think it's pretty good. Like clean tones and slightly overdriven, I have no problem, especially like I said with an impulse response. I'm very curious to see if this ICM that they're talking about with this does anything to emulate the real amp a little better. And also this impulse response loader, have a feeling that might work better for distortions. That's where my curiosity lies. And I did just want to say, we're going to talk about this more in the round robin shortly, but if anybody is either a guitarist or wants to try using amps and things like that to give more life to your VSTs or even just hardware synths, Guitar Rig 6, there's a free version. It doesn't, to our knowledge, seem like there's a free version of 7 yet. There may be, but there's a free version of 6 that comes with, I think, 1 or 2 amps and a few effects. And we'll put a link in the description for that in the show notes. But we'll talk about that more in the round robin. But if you're just curious to see what it sounds like, and if we're crazy when we talk about the fizzy distortions, maybe it's just us. But if you want to see, I'm telling you, there's this like fake fizziness to distortion. Try it out for yourself and let us know if you find the same to be true.
Exactly. We are continuing our track on looking at this amp sims and kind of how we can incorporate that beyond the guitarist, because obviously, you know, Sunwarper and I are both kind of guitarists by trade originally.
No, I'm a kalimbaist.
Well, in that case, I'm a shakerist.
There you go.
So yeah, but you can dive deep and use them in very fascinating ways that go beyond the traditional guitar rig. Obviously, it's great for just plugging your guitar in and just, you know, having it in the box and just creating an awesome sound wonderfully straight away. But you can also, like with anything, the fun and the experimentation comes with fucking around and putting other things in front of it, that kind of thing. And one of the great things to put in front of it is synthesizers. So yeah, that's that one. Is that, I can't remember if that's after the marketing minute or before.
Well, I think we can go into it first, but there is one last bit of news that we have to cover. But I'm curious, is anybody in the chat or comments, if you're watching back or on Spotify, are you looking into any of these new Native Instruments announcements, either Guitar Rig or for the MIDI? I think those MIDI keyboards are awesome, but man, that price a little steep.
Yeah, it's steep. It's steep. Maybe for
Yeah.
Christmas, if you've been a good boy.
Well, I think the Digitact is more my speed for Christmas.
There you go. We'll see.
We'll see.
What's the last piece of news, Sunwarper?
Yeah, the last piece of news is just a massive thanks to everyone because our playlist, the Audionautic radio playlist, has hit 500 followers on Spotify. So just wanted to first give a heads up if you want to check out the latest and chillest in independent IDM, ambient, things like that, lo-fi. We've all got it there. Curtis, if you could just share the screen. I'm still seeing your native instruments on there. I put the link in there. It looks like it's still native instruments. You might need to change the setting.
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm just getting around to it. Just post it in the chat.
Here it is here. Yeah, I'll share it there.
I'm just going to bring this up.
I was doing weekly updates, but as I get more and more towards the paternity stuff and all the things with that, it was every other week or so. I haven't actually been able to update it, but I'm going to give it an update very soon, probably this week to celebrate the 500. And then I don't know, maybe Curtis will have to take the reins for a couple of weeks, but yeah, there's a lot on there, lots of great stuff. We've got Curtis on there. I'm on there. A lot of our patrons are on there. FCC, who is one of our label mates, is on there. Highly recommend if you like Boards of Canada to check out this. There's a lot on there, but ambient, anything, yeah, lots of great stuff is on there. Yeah. And
it is awesome.
And, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Curtis.
No, I was going to say it's awesome that the idea of creating a community based around all the collective music that we have both on and off the Audionautic roster. It's a really good place just to kind of like just get on and go, oh, look how much cool music we have in the community and beyond. It's just it's a great way of doing it.
Yeah, we want to celebrate everyone and bring eyes to everyone's music. So that's the point. So if you have music that you think will fit, give it a listen. If you think your music is going to be a fit, head to the Discord. You can submit it. There's a channel for submitting, and you can also just DM me or DM Audionautic on Twitter, and we'll give it a listen and let you know if it's a good fit. But yeah, it just means a lot. We've been growing. It's great to just share all this music on here, and we appreciate everyone who's giving it a listen. And yeah, I know we have our gripes with Spotify, but this is a way, at least, to kind of work in our favor with Spotify a little bit. That it's putting awareness to all this music, so it's there. But yeah, we really appreciate everyone who's given it a listen, and you can there's a link in the description if you want to check it out.
Yeah, for sure. It's a wonderful little piece. Or some of the, like, so I mean, for example, you got Odika in there, which I haven't personally listened to Odika for a long time, but you also got sound phase.
Dude, I listen to that song all the time. I love Odika. The little door sound and the like, so cool.
Well, there you go. It's interesting. It's ones that you forget exist, like sound phasers, instant information. I remember working with Sound Phaser when we were putting that EP together, and that was such a good period of life. We were doing it from the ground up and everything. It was absolutely wonderful. So, and
Trans-Pacific is there, which is the song you hear at the start and end of this show every time. So if you need to listen to it more than once a week, there it is.
It's there. Got Moonglade in there. Moonglade's sick as well. Yeah. Great set. If you, like you say, just to reiterate, if you have got a track that you like and it's down tempo and it's chill and it's electronic, send it our way. Because we love making this play. Well, you love making this playlist, and I love going to Sunwarper curates it, and then we have a separate playlist. It's just the two of us where it's collaborative and we put songs in there. And every Friday, I love it. On the tram into work, it's just like, let's send in this one. Let's send him this one. Let's send him that one. It's like our own little relief radar. Isn't it?
Some of the shit you listen to is weird. I'm like, what? You think this is gonna fit?
Well, weird. I mean,
but I know you're more just like you get jazzed up about it, and you're like, let's see if he likes it or not. I'm like, whoa, this is a cool song, but man,
we have to see how it works out. Like. I think it's like I make wonky music and I'm fully embracing my wonkiness, and I just the wonky and the weird is where I'm at. You've got that kind of that straight, not straight edge, but you've got
wait till my next song. My next song is a time stretched wind chime.
Oh, lovely. All right, I look forward to that one.
Yeah. Well, you have to make a visualizer for it, so get on to it.
I need to get on that. Yeah, I need to get on that.
I do want to say though, really quick, I was walking the dog this morning, playing the playlist as I always do, and Reclamation came on, and I was like, oh, I love that song. I love the chill little piano that's like, just it's so I that song is such a journey. I love it. And really quick in the chat, David said that he just got the Hydra. I'm assuming Hydra synth. Which one of those did you get?
No.
Oh no, Hydra. What?
Maybe he does. Well, Hydra is. Oh, it's Hyper. No, I am wrong. I think maybe that's the Hydra thing. I'm wrong. Must be.
Yeah, I'm assuming. Well, David can clarify for us. But if it is a Hydra synth, there's 3, I believe, right? The Explorer, the Desktop, and the OG, the normal one. I'm curious which one you got. Those are sick.
I would love it.
Yeah.
In a similar vein to FCC and Survey Channel, because they both. I mean, FCC is just invested in the deep mind. I wouldn't mind something along those ideas. And I was looking at the Hydra synth. 10K. All right, I could do that. Just a lovely, lush digital synth that could be really nice. Another way of working at it. Really cool.
Yeah, definitely. There's also the Pro 800.
There is also the Pro 800. There's so much synthesizers.
There's so much synth.
There's so much synth out there. We'd love to test them. I mean, we have some stuff later where we're using the Guitar Rig 5 because we don't have access to the 7 because, well, they won't give us the 7. But hopefully one day we'll get that. Hopefully one day. So yeah. What are you going to take us through for the marketing minute, Sunwarper?
Oh, are we doing marketing minute first? Yeah. So this is some free and easy hacks I came across for creating Spotify canvases from even just a photo. And yeah, you could obviously just put a photo on Spotify, but this creates movement from a single photo, and it's using our favorite CapCut.
Yeah.
But CapCut is free. It's a video editor. It's owned, I believe, by TikTok or the company that owns TikTok. It gets a little confusing with all of that, but you can download it on your phone, but it's also a desktop. And Curtis was messing around with the desktop yesterday. I couldn't find this feature on the desktop, so I took a screenshot doing it with the phone on the phone app, and I'm just going to walk through the screen recording that I made of it. But basically, I took an AI-generated image. If you want to see how to create AI images, we have a tutorial through Stable Diffusion, which Curtis walked us through. And ever since that, I've been using Stable Diffusion like every day, sending Curtis, look at this one, look at this one, now look at this one. And we're talking about all the ways to extend your prompt and finesse your prompt. It's very interesting to do. And the negatives make a game changer. But anyways, using that, I made some artwork. You could do this with a normal photo. I think it's geared more towards photos of yourself with some of these, as you'll see. But I'm going to show you the walkthrough. So if you open CapCut, that's going to be the first bit of this video, just what you see when you open CapCut on, this is iOS. I'm sure it's the same on phone. What is it? Android. So here it is. So you go to new project. I'm going to go to photos and click the first photo. This is a new one I made. From there, you have to have the video be more than 3 seconds for Spotify. So I extended the video to 3 or 4 seconds. Then you go to photo effects. And there's all these different effects. This is what I mean by some are more geared towards like a person's photo. This is like a cosmic effect. Not that great, but you'll see these 3D zoom effects turn these photos into like a 3D zoomed video. So this first one, 3D Zoom Pro, looks cooler, does more movement, but there's more tendency for glitches, as you see. Then 3D Zoom is more straightforward, but looks better. As you can see, it kind of turns all the parts of the image a little 3D and then just zooms in on it. So once you've done that, I just extended it a little more. You can't extend the duration of the zoom, which is a bit annoying. But then I went to effects and added, because I always have to add retro glitchy effects. I think it's Betamax, just to get some coloring. Then if you click the effect, if you tap the effect, you can adjust all the different sliders. So the filter change, blur, you can even change the size of the distortion it's adding, which I thought was really cool. And then once you do that, you need to make sure that the effect goes the full duration of the video. This one does not. Watch, see, it turns normal. So you have to just extend it. So you tap, I'll show you once I minimize the video. You tap that color, the purple thing that says Betamax, and you just extend it to the right and left if you need to. From there, you hit the download at the top and you're done. It's on your camera. Go to Spotify, upload it on your song, and that's all you need to do.
It's never been easier to make these ADHD riddled pieces of information that keep people online, that keep people looking at your stuff. It's so easy. There's no longer there's no longer an excuse, to put it frank. And it's a great walkthrough. Thank you ever so much for making that for us, Sunwarper.
Yeah, sorry, it's a bit sped up. I didn't realize how short the video was, and I had to add the voiceover live. But if anybody has any clarifications they'd like me to make or expand on anything, let me know while we're live, or just hit us up in the comments and we can do it in a future video. But basically, you can make free art on Stable Diffusion. It's a Discord. Like I said, I'll put a little iCard up above Curtis. If you could just mark this time, 47 minutes, Curtis, so I can put the iCard on it. I will put, after this airs, I'll put an iCard up there, so you can just click that if you want the tutorial. Curtis gives a in-depth tutorial on going through Stable Diffusion, because it's a Discord. It's a little confusing when you open it. There's all these bots, all these different things. He gave a very streamlined, just go here, type this, and you've got it. Get it messaged to you. So that's how you can make a photo, or you could use stock photos from Pexels. What is it, Pixabay or something? That's another one, right?
Pexels, Unsplash.
Yeah, you can get stock photos from there. You could manipulate them in CapCut if you wanted to, or you could take photos with your iPhone. I mean, don't forget originality too and creativity, but take those photos, throw it into CapCut. CapCut is free. It does, I will say, to do photo effects, you have to give CapCut authorization to upload the photo to their cloud server or something. They claim they deleted after, but just a heads up, that's the thing. But then once you do it, you just go to those effects and you can do, there's all these different ones. I hope they give you the ability, though, to change duration like you could with the effect, like normal effects, like the Betamax. I could change the duration, change all that. As it is now, as you saw, when you do a photo effect, you click it, and what it does is what it does. So you can't do anything more, but it's still really cool. And that's all free ways to do it.
I do, and I think it adds some. It's not just about, obviously we build this as kind of like a Spotify canvas thing, but you know, it's ever so essential if you want to kind of promote your music or promote your image as a musician and producer or composer, to have a social media presence.
Yeah,
and in the same way that Survey Channel does it so well, you don't have to stick your face out into the world. You can put your art out into the world, and you know, with pairing up with this Stable Diffusion and this CapCut, you can make some very engaging content which speaks to you and something that you have value in, and also means that you're not just making, selfies, for example.
Yeah, and more to that point is, it's another way to make promotion, let's say, or videos in between promoting. That's what I meant to say. It's a way to make videos without promoting, because not every post on social media, this is a marketing minute, so we'll talk about it. Not every post should be trying to sell, right? So this is a way to just create, I don't know if culture is the right word, but a sort of culture around your art that's beyond just like, hey, go listen to it. It's also another way to just get people interested in your music. If you've got a song coming out soon, you could make a series of these videos. And with these different 3D zooms, you could do the normal video effects. I only showed photo effects and then some of the filters, but there's also video effects, which is more like transitions, like they do that zoom that a lot of YouTubers use at the start and stuff. But it's a great way to just create content very quickly if you'd like, or take as long as you want. And like for me, it's been a way to explore creativity. Like I said in the Stable Diffusion thing, I can't draw, but I think of these really interesting ideas, and I can put that into text, into Stable Diffusion. It makes it, and then I can tweak it and manipulate it and create these videos that go with my song, and create a story that I'm imagining when I listen to the song, and share that with people and be like, this is what I hear. I mean, what do you hear? But it gives this visual aspect that I'm very keen on, or big on. Like, I love adding visuals to music. And another thing I've been testing out is just taking those Stable Diffusion photos and sharing them as a story, and using a song of mine through Instagram, because that should, I believe, get you ad revenue. You know, when you get like Instagram streams. So it's not being like, you're not selling your music, but it's just a way to maximize your music on Instagram. You're just like creating this art and being like, well, here's just some music. So when someone opens the story, it's not selling to say, hey, go click the song or anything. It's literally just like, here's a song I think matches this art. And you should get like, what, 0.000027 cents from it. So yeah.
I mean,
a couple things from David really quick. I'm sorry, Curtis. Just give me one sec. David says he got the Hydrasynth 49. I think that's the Explorer, right? The tinier one. Yeah. So. And then David says that this is very cool, that he's going to check it out. He also adds Pixel Bay. I've not heard of that one. And he says, I have PixArt, and it has a $20 year option for visual effects. Yeah. So there's that. CapCut's free though. So if you don't want to spend $20, there's that option too. But I'm not familiar with PixArt. I'm not trashing it at all. It's probably great. I'm just saying that if you're on a budget, or if you don't want to spend money right now, but do all these sorts of things, CapCut is basically a video editor that's free. You can use it and sync it between your phone and desktop. So there's just like all this stuff you can do with it. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, for sure. I think just in the way as we started this conversation this afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you happen to be in the world, just as we started this conversation about tickling different parts of your brain and accessing different creative points and different workflows, like this is where, at least for me, I've come to the realization over the past couple of months is, social media now can become another art form in its own right. It doesn't have to be a slog. Like you say, not every project has to be a selling point. Not everything's like, buy my new album, I've got a new track out, that kind of thing. You can really begin to express yourself in another creative way using these tools. And it's so easy. I mean, you made that Zoom in what? In a minute, and the minute
literally,
a minute,
I think the video is a minute 30.
Yeah. And like it's another way of creating. It's another way of forming it. Now, again, I use Exturbia as an example here. Like, he doesn't post often, but when he posts, it's pure gold. He's not selling, he's not putting his face out, but everything he makes is artistically just, what's that? Chef's kiss, as you would say. And yeah, and it's just it's wonderful. You can begin to kind of create that in its own way. Suddenly your social media is not a selling platform. You refocus it, and it's it's your visual aspect of your music, which, as we consistently say, is essential to make your music successful. So I mean, wonderful, great find.
Thank you. Yeah, and if anybody has questions, wants clarifications, or help with doing it, just contact us. We're more than happy to help. And patrons, you can find us in the Twitter group or the Discord, and we're happy to help walk you through it or anything like that.
For sure. Yet more tools to add to your toolkit
arsenal.
So to speak.
Yeah, toolkit.
Arsenal,
That's probably better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way.
But speaking of adding tools to make things better, let's move on to the round robin, shall we?
Nice segue, my friend. Yes. Now I know we have to, the next couple episodes, if I'm here, we have to be a little truncated. So we can go for 15 minutes. So I hope that does justice to the round robin, Curtis. But yes, let's go over it.
Yeah. We are on a time limit as we get to this ever more unstable access of Sunwarper's existence, and that's totally fine. But it is the round robin. If I just bring up this banner, as we can see here, is realistic VSTs. Yes. In the name of, we got this conversation from when we were looking at Guitar Rig, and we were looking at kind of building the show for the week. And VSTs are great. Working in the box is great. It's really fascinating. It's awesome. It unlocks so many different sounds and qualities, etc. But unless you are willing to pay for high quality, or for any other reason, they sometimes sound a bit off. The emulators of the Juno, for example, it sounds awesome, but it just sounds a bit off. It sounds digitized. It sounds fake. And we want to find a way of getting beyond that. And we want to discuss many ways in which you can do that, which we have. And we'd love to know how you, in the chat, watching back, watching live, whatever, however you're consuming this, and however high, by the way, we'd love to know how you make your VSTs, or how you go about making your VSTs sound more realistic.
Yeah, speaking of the high, a hello to Snoopy K.
Hey,
they put
Snoopy
a
K.
smiley face. Yeah, hello. Welcome. How are you this week? Yeah, where do you want to begin? I know you made a video. I was like, get Guitar Rig 6 and make a video using it for synths and guitar, because well, maybe that's actually probably the best place to start. I think let's start with synths, because it's crazy. Yeah, synths, when you just put a synth on a track on your DAW, sound great, right? You add effects and they sound really cool. But if you really want to make it sound very interesting and almost add a bit more liveliness and air presence, whatever you want to call it, adding an impulse response, which we were talking about in the earlier Guitar Rig 7, convolution reverb, of making it sound like it's in a room, or giving it an amp, Guitar Rig 6, as we're about to dive into, just changes its tonal qualities completely. And usually it will make it sit better in a mix, because now it's got this roomier vibe. And another thing you could even do, I'm not trying to get too far ahead, but you could have an aux channel on your total every track, just a small amount being sent into a convolution reverb. So everything just subtly will sound like it's in the same room. Little more liveliness. But let's get back to the synths, because you put Guitar Rig 6, the free version, which has, I think, 1 or 2 amps on it. You put it to the test with a couple different synths.
I put Guitar Rig 5 through it. Yes.
5. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
5.
But 6 is free. 6 is the free
6
one.
is free.
You have 5. That's correct. Yeah. I will put in the chat, I'm going to put a link to the Guitar Rig 6. It's called Guitar Rig 6 Player. It says it's free with Native Instruments Complete Start, which is also free. You just have to sign up. But here is the link in the chat, and I'll put it in the show notes after the episode.
Sounds good. Yeah. So yeah, we're about to watch a video where just basically I took some VSTs, Triple Cheese, Zebralet, and Octave Cat. First 2 of those are free and amazing VSTs, and it just adds another layer to it, as you'll hear. I do like an A/B testing before and after, and yeah, it's great. And I was just playing it. It's dry, and I was literally the way I'm playing the keys is through my computer keyboard. And yeah, just like that.
I've done that on my new laptop, and I'm like, I hate my existence, but I mean, wonderful. It works. Yeah, it works.
It works, man. So let's go to the video so you can see just how much it warps and changes and kind of adds airiness, to borrow your phrase, to it.
Yeah,
it's a really interesting way.
Yeah, let's check it out. That first one, dude, first one blows me away. It just sounds so much better. I mean, the dry sounds great, but there's something about that when you put on the Guitar Rig, and it looks like you were using Plex, the Plexi one, right? I don't know if you used it for all 3, but I saw in the last one you were using the Marshall Plexi amp sim. But man, when that amp sim comes on, it just gets so ethereal. And another thing you could do is shut off the amp and just keep the cabinet on. So it just adds that air without all the tonal colorations of an amp. But yeah, I mean, you did this demo. What did you think about it?
Well, it's one where, like you say, it breathes fresh life into a patch. Now, the Triple Cheese, the Zebralet, and the Octave Cat are all very good quality synths.
Yeah,
there are lots of really crappy VSTs out there, really crappy, and that's what sometimes that's what you want, right? Because then you can whack a Guitar Rig behind it. You can run an amp sim behind it, and suddenly that really crappy free VST from Windows 98 is something that is really good. It's really thick, and it's really experimental. It adds another layer to what you're already doing. And if we love free stuff on this show, and we love going for that. We love checking out those little deals and stuff like that. Like, you can really up your game. You can really change something, and suddenly you know, I always talk. I'm a big fan of layers. Obviously, I'm a big fan of like replicating synths, which we'll get into. But if you have an amp synth that's already thick and full and coming in fast, you know, maybe you don't need 32 channels. Maybe you just need 4.
Yeah, or parallel.
Or parallel. Well, yes, this is another key thing, isn't it? You know, if you're running everything through parallel, you get the beauty of blending those two sounds together. And that, even in its own right, is a beautiful understanding of the world.
Yeah, definitely. And like I was saying earlier, the impulse responses, which is kind of what your demo is doing to a degree. But if you get Space Designer on Logic, which is a reverb, I'm sure there's similar ones in Ableton, all the other ones, RV7000 or whatever it's called, and Reason is the same. You can put in these convolution impulse responses. The Reason has one, I think it's called Propellerhead Studio. It might have changed in the new ones because they're not Propellerhead anymore, but no, Propellerhead Kitchen. Now it might be Reason Studios Kitchen, but I use that on dry wet at 50 on like every synth when I was working in Reason, because it just changes that tonal quality. And I just find anytime I add an impulse response or an amp sim or something like that to synths, it just sits immediately better in the mix. Like there's just something about it that just, it's like a little magic thing. Just pop it in there and it's crazy how much better it will sit in the mix. It's changing the tonal qualities and the frequencies and things like that. So of course it's going to. You've got a couple listed out. I'll let you say them. I don't want to take them from you, but carry on, good sir.
Well, so moving on beyond the idea of amp sims. So like obviously that is, for this episode at least, numero uno, seeing as we looked at Guitar Rig 7. It's a great way in order to make a thicker sounding, better mixing VST sound awesome, you know. But say you don't have that. Say you do just have, you know, the stock, say you have drift, for example, in Ableton. I don't know what a stock Logic synthesizer is, but say we got drift.
There's actually a really good one called Alchemy that Eon like always gets mad when I mention, because it used to be owned by like a small company or something, and then Apple bought it, and it's only now I guess available on Apple on Logic, but it's a good one. but there's like a retro synth that's like the stock one. That's
okay.
Yeah.
So you got that. Say you're working in GarageBand, right? Say you're working something like that, right? There, you know, you've got the classic ones. Firstly, varying your velocity, the VV, varying your velocity, going in and notching everything and making some things hit harder, some things hit softer, to give that human element. I think especially when we key in MIDI notes, you know, it can sound very robotic, which is sometimes what you want, but, you know, sometimes it's not. And if you want to humanize, if you want to sound a little bit more varied, a little bit more realistic, it's going to be played by a human. So how are you going to do that? You're going to go in and vary velocity.
And make sure that the synth has velocity enabled, or a keyboard amount, whatever it's called. I'm forgetting, but on a synth, you need to make sure, because otherwise they may all be fixed velocity.
Yes, very true. Bearing that in mind as well, talking about varying velocity, the idea of not necessarily quantizing.
Or dequantizing once you quantize.
Yes.
Just nudge them slightly left of the grid, slightly right of the grid, early, late, things like that. That will give a huge, especially if you're working with organic instruments like simulations of guitar or piano. Remember, no human is hitting, even drums, no human is hitting every single note at the same time. Just the thought of a guitar, you're strumming or you're finger picking, but either way, you're not hitting every note at the same time. So you want to have space between them. Choose a primary note that's going to be the first, and then cascade them as you will.
Yeah, I like that. I would say as well, you know, like you say, it's okay to not be on the grid. That's totally fine, totally cool. Just putting that out there. It's all right. Just because there's a grid, don't have to go to it. You know, I know we all live in this capitalist world where everything's gridded out. We don't have to do that. It's fine. But my big one grid as well. Just before I hand over to you, one more. And this is actually a good segue because you've added to mine actually. So if you can't invest in high quality synths, which is totally fine. I don't think I've got any high quality. I've got some high quality synths, but I don't think I've got that many. But high quality dynamic VSTs, which you can get either a lot cheaper than a VST synth, or you can get some really high quality ones for free. Compressors, filters, EQs, you know,
Valhalla Supermassive.
Valhalla Supermassive, all these
everything better.
amazing, exactly, all these amazing VSTs, which are totally free. And if you are working on, if you're working on a crappy Monique, I'm trying to think of a crappy synth VST, Monique, for example.
I don't even know what that is.
Just springs to mind. Just a Monique, it's a mono synth, and it's a bit lame, to be honest. But if you are combining that, if you're combining that with some decent compression or some decent saturation or some decent EQing and filters, then it doesn't really matter because your sound's going to sound great.
Yeah, and to carry on from that, if you can't get a hold of high quality synths, another option, or high quality drum sounds, another option is to sample them. Take one shots from YouTube tutorials, anything like that, and just take the single sound and sample it and throw it in a sampler and transpose it across the keyboard, and you've got a synth. And then you can add effects, add those high quality dynamic compressors you're getting for free, or EQs. And I would honestly add, I mean, that's the big one I want to say, but I don't think, I mean, maybe some things are actually bad, like effects or plugins aren't very good, but if you learn the insides and outs of a specific effect or synth plugin, whatever you want to call it, you'd be surprised what you can get out of it. I mean, like the stock Logic compressor is, I used to think, oh, it's horrible, I need press work from Yuhi and I need this and that. And now, I mean, once I really got a grip of how it works and understood a bit more about compression, obviously, and all the different types of compressors that it offers, what goes best on what type of instrument, when you learn the insides and outs of it, you can get some crazy sounds out of it you'd never expect to get. And just like any synth, I mean, like the retro synth I was talking about from Logic, at first I was like, oh, it's stock Logic, it's not good. Then I started using it more and more. First, I took the presets and would reverse engineer them. Then I started designing my own, and you realize, oh, you can really get some crazy sounds out of it. Nothing you'd expect to get out of it, but there's a lot to it. So if you only have access to what's stock, learn it inside and out, watch lots of videos, check out the presets, and then try to learn how they made them. And then start, once you get that knowledge, start making your own and seeing what you can create.
For sure. Depth of knowledge versus a wide knowledge, I think. Definitely,
it's like jack of all trades and master of none, or master of one, you know?
Exactly. I mean, I have a lot of people coming to me who are just starting out and saying, you know, I know everything. Like, don't know everything. Just pick your favorite, you know, 2, 3, 4, run with it. Before you go making 30 tracks or 30 stems, just stick with 4, stick with 8, keep it simple, really learn, really study. That's the best stuff, you know. I say that as a maximalist. I say as a person who made a track with 96 stems and built the computer. But like,
well, I say it as a recovering maximalist.
You're a recovering maximalist.
Not exactly though. I mean, when I need to, I'll have hundreds of tracks. That A Moment of Lifetime was, I think, what was down. I thought it was 90. It was actually 40, but that's still a decent number. But I mean, previous songs have been a lot. But now when I work with the SP, everything just goes into the SP, and then it's whatever it's mixed as, that's what it is, because it's a stereo 2 track. So yeah, I mean, work with limitations. That's the best. Like what I'm saying, with choose some stock sounds and learn it, because then when you do get those higher quality synths or higher quality compressors and things like that, you'll know the workings of it, like what ADSR is, what LFO is, what the modulations are, and then you can get even better quality out of these high quality sounds, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's a really interesting way. Now we're coming up to 1/4 the hour, so we will continue to have this discussion in the Discord. If there's anything that we've missed, if there's anything, I mean, there's stuff on our list we haven't mentioned, so I'm going to put that in the Discord. But
no, Eon, like to speed fire through like 30 really good suggestions in 2 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Let us know. We'd be curious. Obviously, this is a growing community, and we want to know what you guys think. We're just 2 people who have a YouTube channel and account with StreamYard, but we would love to know what you guys are doing with it, because we know nothing about nothing. And you know, we
are the Socrates of music production. We know that we know nothing.
we are the shaved chimp version of Socrates. Yeah. Let's know, because you know, there's obviously something that we've missed.
I love how you're going on this analogy thing. You're just like, no, I'll stop now. Let us know.
No, let us know. We'll go.
David says
we want to know
great advice, guys, and I want to say thank you, David. If you have anything to add from your Dallas perspective, let us know. And he also said he meant Pixabay, not Pixel Bay, which I think, yeah, we also mentioned. Yeah, I mean, there's all these different things when it comes to creating art and things like that. You can take, like, before I did the AI stuff with some of these, I would take several pictures from Pexels and blend them together using, what is it called? Screen. What's the double exposure, right? Yeah, double exposure, like screen and things like that, and create these really weird combinations of things that looked really cool. And then you could manipulate it, or I'd be like, Curtis, do this to it in Photoshop. He's my last resort when I really need to get serious. I'm like, hey, Curtis, can you do this, and this? But yeah, I mean, I found more and more ways that work for me to express myself through this. And I hope you check out using CapCut, or if you have Final Cut, or even what's the free one on not Logic, Apple iMovie. There's a phone app for iMovie, but at least to my knowledge, you can't do vertical. It's so strange. But iMovie's free on any MacBook, Mac, anything like that. There's tons of free things. I think DaVinci Resolve is free too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's open. Yeah, it's free.
Yeah,
completely.
So there's so all these different things. Yeah, there's all these different things. CapCut is easily accessible, and it's right there. You can sync it between your phone and your desktop. But even Canva does video editing. But I haven't seen any others that do this super easy 3D effect thing. And I just wanted to turn my canvases into, because the whole point of my project right now is Imagine Landscape. So I wanted to make this inviting landscape that draws you in. So these 3D zooms kind of do that. So that's where I'm at. I hope it helps. And if you have questions, let us know. Curtis, anything before we go?
No, just thank you ever so much for people tuning in live. Thank you ever so much for your input and where you're at and what you're going through. People listening back, hope you enjoy the show. Would love to see you guys over in the Discord, sharing your ideas and seeing what you like and seeing what and contributing to the show. More recently, there have been people who have been putting stuff in the ADSN channel to help to highlight to us exactly what you guys are talking about. And we love that, because we make this and we get a real good kick out of it, but we love to talk about what you guys want to talk about. So come on, say hi over in the Discord.
Yeah, definitely. We'd love to have you over there. And yeah, it means a lot. I just want to say thanks again for everyone helping us get to 500 followers on the playlist. If you want to check it out, head there. And also, thank you, Charles. He says, say thanks for the stream. We appreciate it. Of course, we're happy to do it. We love doing this, and we hope you learned something. And with that, I think we'll call this episode done, and we will see you next week at 11 a.m. Pacific. And Curtis, tell me the UTC time again. I keep forgetting.
7 p.m. UTC.
There we go. Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.